You've probably heard of object-oriented programming. Everybody tries to explain it, and I think so many people massively overcomplicate it. So I want to keep this video very short and simple and explain to you in the clearest way I know how what object-oriented programming is without complicating it and without even using any code. So here's the starting point. If you look around you in the real world, every physical thing you see is an object. From this mouse to this laptop to this mic, everything is an object. An object is just the most generic possible word you could use to describe anything. Everything is an object. And you can get much more specific because you can have different types of objects, but really they all have things they can do and properties. So the properties of different objects in the world, we might call them attributes. You can have an attribute like color, an attribute like name of a person. I am an object. You can have different attributes for different kinds of objects as well. Some make sense for some objects and not for others. So objects can have attributes. That's the properties about them. And the other thing I said they can do is they can do things. They can have actions. They can have functions. Like I said, the mouse can move. That is a function of the mouse. And again, different objects can have different functions, but everything is an object. And it's useful to have a word like an object, which you can use to describe everything all at once. And so when you have an object-oriented programming language, what you have is everything in that language, the variables, the functions, anything at all that you can define. You can also say that it's an object. Regardless of what particular attributes or functions that object might have, everything is an object. And much like in the real world, where you can invent something new, you can create something, you can create a new type of object, you can also do that in an object-oriented programming language. You can create a new type of object, essentially a new data type, which can have its own attributes and functions, that is properties and things it can do inside the language. And in most cases, you can program behavior for those new objects yourself, so they behave in a way that makes sense for whatever you're using them for. So you might have an object to represent a user in your app, and that user has attributes like their name and their age, their username, etc. And they also have functions, things they can do. We call them methods, which define the behavior when they actually take an action. You might have a function of the user, a method of the user, which is to log in or to log out. Those are things that user can do. And so in an object-oriented programming language, you can define those behaviors yourself. What do the different functions do and which objects have which functions? And by doing that, you can define your own data types. I will go over many examples of that, but the key thing to focus on and remember, because it can get so complicated and so many people do a bad job of explaining what it means, the key thing to remember is that object-oriented programming means that everything is an object and different objects have different attributes, that's properties, and methods, functions, that's things they can do.